They tell you that poverty is a curse. They tell you that wealth is the cure. But standing here, in the shadow of the Forbidden Baobab, Kalu finally knows the truth. Gold is not found in the earth. It is harvested from the heart. And the harvest is bloody. Take a long look at this man. 3 days ago, Kalu was the joke of the village. A man who couldn't afford to buy his dying daughter a cup of water. Now he owns enough gold to buy the entire kingdom. But look at his eyes. Those aren't the eyes of a winner. Those are the eyes of a man who has just realized that when the ancestors offer you a gift, they are actually setting a trap. In the village of Olowo, if you had no corn, you had no voice. Kalu was known as the dust eater. While his neighbors feasted on roasted yams and palm wine, Kalu spent his days begging the sun for a single cloud. He watched his goats drop one by one, their eyes turning to glass. He watched his wife's face hollow out until she looked like a ghost while she was still breathing. The headman didn't just walk past Kalu, he enjoyed the sight of his suffering. He once threw a handful of grain into the mud, wet black mud from his own well, and told Kalu, "If you want to eat, crawl for it. Even the vultures have more dignity than you, dust eater." The villagers didn't look away, they laughed. That sound, that high-pitched mocking cackle, it didn't just hurt Kalu. It burned a hole in his soul that only one thing could fill: revenge. A man with a full belly fears the dark, but a man with a starving family finds the dark welcoming. Kalu walked where the hunters refused to go. He walked into the forest of echoes where the trees don't grow leaves, they grow secrets. The air here was heavy, smelling of old copper and ozone. Every step felt like walking through deep water. And there it was, the Forbidden Baobab. It stood like a silent god, its branches reaching out like skeletal fingers clawing at the moon. As Kalu approached, the wind stopped. The insects went silent. The only thing he could hear was the tree, breathing. "I don't want your gold. I want my children to live. Take my blood. Take my soul." "Just let them eat." The tree didn't answer with words. A single branch lowered itself, slow and deliberate, placing a heavy metallic fruit into his palms. It was warm. It was vibrating. And as Kalu looked down, the fruit split open, revealing not seeds, but a single, blinking human eye. And the eye was the same color as his daughter's. Kalu wanted to scream, to fling the cursed thing into the darkness. But then, the eye in the fruit softened. It turned from a cold metallic gold to the warm brown amber of his daughter's eyes. A voice didn't come from the tree's mouth, but from inside Kalu's own chest. "You asked to save them, Dust Eater. I do not want your blood. I have had enough blood. I want your shadow. Give me your shadow, and every seed you plant shall turn to gold before the sun sets." A shadow seems like a small price to pay when your children are fading into skeletons. Kalu didn't hesitate. He whispered yes. In that instant, the golden eye vanished, and the fruit melted into his palms like liquid fire. He felt a cold shiver rip through his spine, and when he looked down, the ground beneath his feet was empty. The moon was bright, but Kalu stood alone in the light. His shadow was gone. The tree did not lie. By the next morning, Kalu's graveyard of dust had become a forest of wealth. Every stalk of corn was a bar of gold. Every bean was a gemstone. The man who was once mocked now stood in a field that could buy 10 kingdoms. He fed his children from golden bowls, but he noticed something strange. The food had no taste. The water did not quench his thirst. He was rich, but he was becoming hollow. But Kalu wasn't the only one who noticed. Jeed, the only man who had stayed by Kalu's side during the famine, was watching. Jide didn't see a friend who had been saved. He saw an opportunity. He saw a man with no shadow in a field of gold, and he realized that Kalu hadn't just found wealth. He had found a loophole in the universe. "You've changed, Kalu. You have everything now. But tell me, why do you jump every time a candle is lit? Why does the sun seem to hide from you?" Kalu tried to hide his feet, but it was too late. Jide saw the empty space where a shadow should be. He knew the stories of the Forbidden Baobab. He knew that to steal a man's magic, you must first steal his heart, literally. Jeed leaned in close and whispered into Kalu's ear. "The tree gave you the gold because you were desperate. But I am not desperate, Kalu. I am ambitious. And the tree loves ambition more than it loves pity." As the blade began its descent toward Kalu's throat, something impossible happened. The ground didn't just shake, it screamed. A root, black as obsidian, burst through the floor of the hut and wrapped itself around Jide's ankle, dragging him toward the door. The tree wasn't protecting Kalu. It was calling for a second payment. And Jide was about to find out that the Baobab doesn't just take shadows. It takes witnesses. Jide's scream didn't sound like a man's anymore. It sounded like dry wood snapping. Kalu watched as his best friend, the man who had shared his last drop of water during the drought, was pulled into the mouth of the night. The root didn't just hold him, it was merging with him. Jide's skin began to turn the color of obsidian, his eyes flickering with that same sickly golden light Kalu had seen in the fruit. Kalu could have grabbed a machete. He could have tried to sever the root. But as he looked at Jide, he didn't see a friend. He saw a threat to his gold. A cold, metallic thought entered Kalu's mind, placed there by the tree. If he lives, he tells the village. If he dies, the gold is yours alone. Kalu did nothing. He watched until the darkness swallowed Jide whole, leaving nothing behind but a single golden coin where his friend's heart had been. By sunrise, Kalu was no longer the dust eater. He was the gold king, but the village was changing. The greed that had started in Kalu's field was spreading like a plague. Men who used to help each other fix their roofs were now fighting in the streets over golden pebbles. The laughter of children had stopped, replaced by the clinking of metal. The village didn't smell like cooking fires anymore. It smelled like the cold, dead scent of an open vault. Kalu realized then that his touch was turning everything he loved into a statue. The gold wasn't just in the fields, it was in his blood. He went to his well to drink, but the water turned to liquid gold in his throat, burning him with a thirst that could never be quenched. He had all the wealth in the world, and he was starving to death in a palace of gold. Desperation brings you to the tree, but only sacrifice lets you leave. Kalu fell at the roots of the baobab, his fingers bleeding gold. He begged the echoes to take the wealth back. He begged to be a dust eater again. He begged for his shadow to return so he could feel the warmth of his daughter's hand without freezing her soul. The shadow you gave me is gone, Kalu. It has been eaten. To buy back your life, you cannot give me what you don't have. You must give me the one thing the village values more than gold. You must give me the truth. The tree wasn't asking for his life. It was asking for his legacy. It wanted him to go back and tell the village that their wealth was a lie, to destroy the greed he had created. But the tree knew the villagers would never believe him. They would kill him to keep the gold. Kalu stood at the edge of the world he had built, a world of gold and ghosts. He looked at his hands. They were no longer flesh. They were metallic, cold, and heavy. He realized then that the ancestors don't punish us with poverty. They punish us by giving us exactly what we asked for, without the wisdom to carry it. He didn't scream as the fields burned. He watched as the gold melted back into the earth, disappearing into the soil like a bad dream. The villagers ran out, wailing, trying to grab the molten metal with their bare hands, but it slipped through their fingers like water. As the last golden leaf turned to gray ash, a miracle happened. The sky, which had been white and dry for months, finally broke. The rain didn't just wash the earth, it washed the greed from their hearts. Kalu fell to his knees, his skin turning back to warm, living flesh. He was a poor man again. He was the dust eater once more. But as he walked back into his home and felt the soft, living warmth of his daughter's hand, he realized he had finally found the golden secret. Wealth is not what you keep in your barn. It is what you are willing to lose for the sake of your soul. The baobab tree still stands at the edge of the forest, waiting for the next man who thinks a shadow is a small price to pay for a kingdom. But Kalu no longer hears the echoes. He only hears the rain. In our search for success, we often forget the weight of the shadows we leave behind. Take this moment to reset. Reflect on the legacy you are building. Is it made of gold or is it made of truth? If this story resonated with your spirit, subscribe to Ancestral Echoes. Join our community as we decode the ancient wisdom hidden in the heart of Africa. Until the next echo, stay mindful.